And that was a time when girls were not supposed to be smart and they were absolutely never supposed to fight back against anything that they perceived as being unjust. It just wasn't part of the culture. And she made it clear to my sister and I that in this life, you will get what you take. And in the library, if you can believe it, there were girls' books and boys' books.
Wow.
And the girls were never allowed to take out the boys' books. So as soon as the librarian would turn her head or look away, I'd grab a bunch of boys' books and head down to the basement. This is in Burlingame, to the library, take my lunch, and sit down there all by myself all day and read Isaac Asimov and Heinlein and Ursula Le Guin. And I was only 9 or 10 at the time. But in 1965,
Hmm.
every single medical school in America, public and private, had a quota allowing women in. And those quotas were filled by the daughters of practicing doctors. So that
Hmm.
door was closed. When your moral judgment screams at you, you should listen. If it stirs you,
Hmm.
if you feel it,
Hmm.
find a way to do it.
Hi, viewers. My name is Upesh Jain. Greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the host of the Exec Talk channel, a forum I started to talk to CEOs, executives, and other luminaries about their journeys and distill their experiences and learnings for our viewers' benefit. Today, we have the honor of talking with Nancy Mangini, author of The Eyes of Tandor, a gripping science fiction thriller that merges quantum realities, genetics, and alien conspiracies. We will talk more about the book as we go through our conversation. However, that is not how it all started. A native of Northern California, Nancy Mangini was fascinated with math and science ever since she was a girl in the 1960s. She began her professional career as a pharmacist, but left it behind to join the personal computing revolution sweeping Silicon Valley in the 1980s. Nancy has also offered technical writing services to the aerospace, biotechnology, and IT industries, offering extensive experience in shepherding startup ventures by telling their stories in a compelling way to win grant and contract work throughout the Silicon Valley. She has worked for a variety of Valley companies like Varian, eLoret, etc., as well as been her own boss doing freelance and consulting work. She has a BS in pharmacy from University of Pacific and an MBA from the Livy School of Business at Santa Clara University. Nancy, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to my channel and let my viewers have a chance to get exposure to your life and your accomplishments.
Thank you, Bish. It was so nice to reconnect with you again. We'll get into it as we go through the march of events, but
Mhm.
one of the major connection points in possibly both of our lives was that Santa Clara University EMBA course where we
Mhm.
met.
Yep. So, Nancy, we have a lot to cover, and let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, and do you remember any characteristics or traits that you might have had when young, any role models, so to speak?
Yeah, my sister and I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 50s and 60s. And that was a time when girls were not supposed to be smart and they were absolutely never supposed to fight back against anything that they perceived as being unjust. It just wasn't part of the culture. However, our parents, who both came from very poor backgrounds, had both experienced in their own lives both abuse and injustice. So when they married, they vowed with to each other that they'd never let their children have the same experience. As a consequence, whenever I would ask probing questions, even though I was kind of young, my father, who put himself through UC Berkeley with no help, would sit with me for hours and explore subjects like the realities of scientific life, spiritual journeys, all subjects that you never ever experience in public school, at least in this America.
Hmm.
My mother, for her point, experienced firsthand the then very normal sexual harassment that women in business, secretarials, were exposed to during those times. And she made it clear to my sister and I that in this life, you will get what you take. So I guess they were both my role models.
Wow. Yeah. Entirely different times, I guess. Uh, how did you develop an interest in math and science?
That was the fun stuff. Like I said, in those days, smart girls were considered social outcasts because we didn't follow the rules. So on Saturdays, I went to the library. I never went to friends' houses. We didn't go to parties. We didn't do any of that. And in the library, if you can believe it, there were girls' books and boys' books. And
Wow.
the girls were never allowed to take out the boys' books. So as soon as the librarian would turn her head or look away, I'd grab a bunch of boys' books and head down to the basement. It's in Burlingame to the library, take my lunch, and sit down there all by myself all day and read Isaac Asimov and Heinlein and Ursula Le Guin. And I was only 9 or 10 at the time, but
Hmm.
they used words in their really fascinating stories of science fiction that I didn't understand. So I started to study the words, the scientific technology, the mathematical expressions, and where it all came from. So essentially, I taught myself those subjects. Plus, I developed a real love for storytelling because I started out with these gripping stories
Hmm.
using scientific technology. And
Yeah.
then in high school, when I
Hmm.
tried to take those actual courses, I was prevented. I was not allowed to enroll as an elective in chemistry,
Hmm.
physics, or higher mathematics because the principal at the time said women would never need that kind of information.
Wow.
So once
Mhm.
again, I went back to the library and studied it on my own.
Wow. Uh, so you went for a degree in pharmacy. Uh, where did you go from there? I mean, first of all, how did you get into pharmacy? I guess because you weren't allowed to take mathematics and chemistry, so there were limited choices. But
Yes.
how did you get to pharmacy, and then where did you go from there?
Well, initially, I wanted to go to medical school because
Hmm.
that was one, at the time, that was the confluence of most of those scientific endeavors. But in 1965,
Hmm.
every single medical school in America, public and private, had a quota allowing women in. And those quotas were filled by the daughters of practicing doctors. So that
Hmm.
door was closed. So, like my mother said, you don't take it, you won't get it if you take it. So the
Hmm.
next rung in medical science was pharmacy, pharmaceutical
Hmm.
chemistry. And I found a pharmacy school that had no application restrictions except could you pay the tuition?
Hmm.
And I had a 4 point everything,
Hmm.
entrance examinations. And I entered pharmacy school at the University of the Pacific. And out of a class of 180 some, there were five of us women. The rest were men. And the women all graduated one, two, three, four, five.
Hmm.
But by then, I was married, was beginning to have children, needed a job. So I
Hmm.
became a retail pharmacist because that was the only job available with that kind of a degree in
Hmm.
1970.
I see. So that's how the pharmacy thing came about.
Right.
So after that, so as if life were not challenging enough, what were other key inflection points in your journey, and how did they come about, and how did you deal with them? What would you change, if anything, about them? And more importantly, what were the learnings?
The first inflection point was when I was working as a pharmacist and needed the job. But I got fired because I stood up to a corrupt doctor. He started prescribing very dangerous drugs to children because he'd been bought off by the pharmaceutical representative. I saw it happen. I was in the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So because I was a flag raiser or whistleblower these
Mm-hmm.
days, I was immediately fired.
Mm-hmm.
But the learning from that experience, outside of disappointment and anger, was that when your moral judgment screams at you, you should listen because
Mm-hmm.
something has to change. It's not the right place for you to be. So I took that as a sign and I started going to um, night classes in Silicon Valley to learn how to program because that was just the beginning of the internet revolution and they needed software developers. And that
Mm-hmm.
was back in the day. So I took a class in COBOL. Do you know what COBOL is?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh,
We're both dating ourselves now. Yeah.
oh, a more boring exercise you've never had. I was falling asleep in class because they were all night classes. These were all, adult classes.
Yeah.
And I had to keep myself awake. So I started annotating and illustrating and making graphs when the guy was droning on. And pretty soon the other adults around me were looking over my shoulder and asking me if they could buy my notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, aha, whenever somebody wants to buy something, there's an opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the second learning was when life whispers to you, you got to listen. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
open to the information. So I did listen, and that's when I started doing technical writing first, a little at a time, first on contract. And ultimately, that led to a full time job as a technical publications manager at Varian Medical Systems, where I
Mm-hmm.
could put both the pharmacy and medical training that I had to back me up, plus communications and writing, which I'd always done.
Okay.
And that was a great place to be until I noticed that people were being promoted up the chain and I was always being passed over despite glowing performance reviews. So
Mm-hmm.
I asked what the problem was and said, well, you don't have an MBA and we can't promote you without an MBA. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So again, I had to work. So it had to be a night school MBA. It couldn't be full time going to grad school. And I discovered the EMBA program at Santa Clara University, where you and I
Mm-hmm.
serendipitously met.
Yeah.
And it was a good program, very hard, and lots of late hours and all weekends and whatever. But the connections made there were totally invaluable, both personal, and academic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then as soon as I graduated from that program, literally the month that we graduated,
Mm-hmm.
I was fired from Varian because
Mm-hmm.
they said that, well, I heard having that degree made me eligible for the C level at that company.
Mm-hmm.
And the other people at the C level were all ex military and did not want a woman at the table.
Mm-hmm.
So they took that as an opportunity. And quite frankly, so did I, because while I was at EMBA with you and all of our friends,
Mm-hmm.
I met another man named Jan Heinemann who had been in the class just before us.
Mm-hmm.
Cohort two, they had a rougher time than we did, I remember.
Okay. Yeah.
And as it happened, he and I ended up working on a political campaign together. Just
Mm-hmm.
we were in sync with a lot of things. And he ran a contracting company at NASA Ames.
Okay.
He had maybe 40 employees, very highly placed scientists and
Mm-hmm.
technologists and physicists and aerospace engineers, and they had contracts with NASA, government contracts. But they were in great peril of losing a long-standing contract because there was this one scientist that nobody could document. He was very difficult to work with. He wouldn't talk to anybody, and there was a deadline
Mm-hmm.
coming in from Washington. And Mr. Heinemann was just absolutely desperate because this was his father's company and he had taken it over, and it was fish or cut bait time.
Right.
So I told him, okay, I'll give it a shot. Bottom line, this scientist, he wasn't that he was difficult. He was just so shy,
Mm-hmm.
socially inept.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, social ineptability wasn't as accepted as it
Mm-hmm.
is now.
Yeah.
I found that at NASA at that time, there were the smartest, most competent people I'd ever met who couldn't spell their name. They,
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't write a full sentence, but you give them some numbers, you give them, the technological tools that they use, and they can do
Mm-hmm.
anything. So I brought in home baked muffins every morning, some coffee, sort
Mm-hmm.
of got his trust. And then finally he said, well, you can't understand what I'm doing because there's math involved.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't a big problem.
Okay.
And
Okay.
long story short, 3 months later, the book was made, contract saved. And 1 year after that, both this scientist, whom you can look up now, and
Mm-hmm.
myself were awarded the NASA 2007 Software of the Year Award, which is a national award.
Nice. Nice.
So that was the right inflection point, and the learning was that blow up from Varian was a gift.
Mm-hmm.
If it hadn't happened, I never would have made the switch to
Mm-hmm.
where I really belonged, which is where I could both do what I knew I was meant to do, which is right.
Yeah. So two phrases come to my mind, or two sayings. This was a blessing in disguise, and that necessity is the mother of invention, right? Your segue into technical writing, and then, just being associated with these individuals and their cause.
But
So that's a perfect segue into, your transition to becoming an author. So can you tell us more about, how that transition came about? And if there's anything before that that you'd like to mention, please go ahead.
yeah, well, it wasn't so much a transition as a return, because ever since I was in the basement of that library reading all those Forbidden Boys books, I
Hmm.
always wrote something. I always wrote poems or essays or just something. It was what I did, it was who I
Hmm.
was. And then later on, but just for me, just personal, like
Hmm.
diary stuff.
Yeah.
And then later, when I was married with kids and working late at night, and I would still write, as many of us will, in our passion projects. And I would write science fiction storylines and a few other things. Once I actually finished a short novel, and
Hmm.
I sent it naively, unsolicited, to a publisher in New York, which at the time that was the only place there were publishers, was New York City.
Hmm.
And it was immediately both accepted and then stolen.
Hmm.
I did not have an agent. I did not have a contract. I did not have a registered copyright. I was dumb.
Hmm.
Learned the hard way. Uh, Saw it on the shelves under somebody else's name. And that's when I learned the difference between being an author and a writer. An
Okay.
author gets paid by the book if you have a good attorney and a contract,
Hmm.
and a writer gets paid by the hour. I
Right.
had to be a writer to make a living.
Hmm.
But once Jan and I really, Mr. Heinemann and I really had a good partnership at NASA for like 5 years. It wasn't like going to work. It was just waking up every morning and doing something you loved.
Hmm.
But everything changes, everything turns. Every contract at NASA has to be funded from Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
And Jan was a great guy, still is, but he's not necessarily politically active at that level. and his competition was very politically active at the higher level. And the contract got taken by these other people who were military,
Mm-hmm.
who had personal relationships with the military in Washington, yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, Mr. Heinemann lost the contract, and it was taken over in 2008, just when President Obama came in,
Mm-hmm.
by this other company that had had this successful lobbying thing.
Mm-hmm.
And thank goodness that that president at that time, because that, if you'll remember, was that first real recession we went through, said, "Okay, fine, we can award new contracts, and management can change in all of our installations, but none of the employees can be fired when you change contract owners,
Mm-hmm.
the people doing the actual work." And that was a lifesaver. So they had to keep me on staff. Uh, and that was in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And it absolutely killed them because they were such a military company. They didn't have a single female on their roster that wasn't a secretary. And they definitely didn't have anybody who was getting paid what I was getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
They were by law forbidden from changing that. It
I
took
see.
them about 3 years to figure out a way around it, but that was enough time for
Mm-hmm.
me, you know.
I see.
So then finally, when all of their efforts came to fruition and I was informed that my services were no longer needed and that I could go ahead and retire whether I wanted to or not,
Mm-hmm.
I said, fine. That was another learning as to when life hollers at you, look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally had enough time to go back to those science fiction stories,
Mm-hmm.
but this time with a life experience on how to not get stolen, how to get published, who I'm dealing with, and what the landscape is out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
One,
how it came
yeah.
about.
Once burnt, twice shy, right?
Oh, three times
So,
shy.
yeah. So, well, great. I mean, long-winded way of getting to where you wanted to in terms of passion. Uh, so, tell me more about the book itself. I mean, what dictated the content, or where did you get the
It,
idea from? Is there any
I get to show it.
subliminal message there, etc.? Yeah.
No, yeah, it's not. It's pretty blatant, not
Mhm.
subliminal.
Okay.
Basically, it's the story of a group of NASA employees who have been pushed aside by
Hmm.
age, by gender, by culture, in some cases by skin color,
Hmm.
and discounted by the powers that be in Washington. But they get together on a personal level and discover, because they're all real smart
Hmm.
and very qualified, not political, but very qualified, that the people making decisions in the upper echelons of NASA are making really bad decisions, but they're very smart people and they don't understand why.
Hmm.
So they get together and figure out that these people who are in high levels have had their genetics tampered with.
Hmm.
They've been altered by, I had to put some aliens or I couldn't call it science fiction. Okay.
Hmm.
By some aliens in another quantum universe who could, scientifically true, breach the quantum barrier and alter the orientation of certain genes in certain genomes. And
Hmm.
this is all proven scientific fact. I've got the papers to back it up. It's possible. Not that
Hmm.
it's worked, but
Hmm.
it's technically possible. The math works. Okay. And these alterations were meant to change people in power's perspective for seeing everything as a threat
Hmm.
instead of an opportunity. Okay.
Yeah.
At the same time, on this alien planet, they are undergoing their own set of difficulties because the younger generation of these aliens wants the older generation to quit messing with other sentient beings just because they think they are a threat.
Hmm.
So they are tandem storylines that intersect with comparable story arcs.
Hmm. Okay. So, and you just came out with this book when, and I believe you're working on something more as well.
This hit the shelves on November of 2025,
Okay.
and it's available on Amazon and from the publisher. It's an actually published book, not self-published. It's,
I see.
in the
By a
stores.
publisher. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
didn't know before that, but self-publishing books cannot be bought in bookstores and they cannot be bought by libraries. There's some
Hmm.
thing about that, but
Hmm.
anyway, I actually found a publisher who was a NASA file.
Hmm.
He just wanted NASA stories, so that worked for him.
I see.
And now the second book, it's a trilogy. We call it the Tandor Chronicles. The second
Mhm.
book has been written and accepted, and that is coming out this coming November. That'll be on
Okay.
the shelves. That's called The Enemies Within. Now, the third book is under construction, but it's going to take a little while because I've just had a new granddaughter.
Hmm.
So I'm a little bit distracted right now.
Okay.
And
Congratulations. Yeah.
in addition to which, I'm working on two other things. One is a website down in Hollywood
Hmm.
called Story Rocket. In
Hmm.
order to get your book on Story Rocket, you have to, it's a legal thing, you have to post options,
I
media
see.
options, and price them. But you have to do a lot of other things to make it qualify for listing so that publishers actually take it seriously.
Hmm.
And this is where The Martian took off from.
I see.
Andy Weir, who was the author of The Martian, he and I were working at NASA Ames at the same time,
Oh,
doing
wow.
the same thing.
Hmm.
And so he went through this too. So I kind of know what the process is.
Nice. Nice.
That's
So,
going to take a little while.
yeah.
And then the third thing that's kind of in the background is
Hmm.
I'm researching a new novel that is going to be set, assuming I get it written, in Neolithic Scotland,
Mm.
because the genetic trace that they are now able to do all the way back through the Scottish clans brings us to some paleontology, historical novel areas that are
Hmm.
fascinating to me. And next year, I'm planning a trip to this place because they found, they've actually found a physical location where my personal family's DNA comes from.
Wow. Yeah.
So
That's.
that
Hmm.
being in a place that you're writing about completely changes how you approach the story.
Hmm.
It increases the authenticity by leaps and bounds, and it's a lot more satisfying than just reading about it. So
Hmm.
that's what's on deck.
Okay. So looks like you have your work cut out for you, or should I call it work because it's your passion? And
It is
they say
now.
if you make your passion your work, it's not work at all. So,
Exactly. Like you said in another interview, it's the true line for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
When I
And
can both write and
mhm,
use truth, scientific truth, to tell those stories,
mhm.
that's my true line.
Awesome. So Nancy, I mean, there's the aspect of the writing and the content and a little bit of you know, personal investment or personal experience in there. But, outside of that, what do you seek to accomplish by writing these books? I mean, um, for perhaps posterity, for the younger generation, perhaps for society in general, perhaps for a community. So it's an open forum. It's an open question. So,
What I seek, the
mhm,
reason if you go down several levels,
mhm,
I believe that when somebody reads what somebody else writes, it's the
mhm,
purest form of mind to mind communication.
mhm,
I can use language in my mouth that may or may not resonate with you, and you can use references that may or may not reference with me. But
mhm,
if you're reading what's on my pages, which came right out of my head,
mhm.
we have a connection that we could not otherwise have.
Right.
My
Yeah.
ultimate hope is for more human connection, not
Hmm.
less.
Hmm. Awesome. So, along those lines, you had a passion for writing when you were young and
Mhm.
in times that were tough. Then your desire to write a book came to fruition at a much later stage in your life.
Mhm.
So, with that backdrop, what advice would you give budding authors? First, like there's a lot of people probably wanting to write, maybe sitting on the fence,
Mhm.
maybe in this day and age of social media,
And
not
AI,
knowing the
and
mechanics of it. Yeah.
yeah.
So, what's your advice to young?
My advice for budding authors, and this question comes up a lot in
Mhm.
interviews. The very first thing that has to happen is that you have to know what you want to say,
Mhm.
not that you want to write or
Mhm.
that you like this or
Yeah.
something else, but there has to be something in you that you need to say to somebody.
Mhm.
If you keep that in top of mind
Mhm.
throughout all the processes and all the back end and all the difficulties and everything that you're going to get, that'll keep you going. It's
Right.
what you want to say.
Mhm.
And never let anybody say, oh, you don't want to say that. That won't
Mhm.
sell. You got to do
Mhm.
this over here.
Mhm.
You're not writing to, I'm not writing to sell 1,000 books. Wouldn't be
Mhm.
bad, but
Mhm.
I'm writing to say what I need to say in a medium that people can access.
Mhm. Okay. So, and in terms of the mechanics, any advice for them?
Ah,
Just take a computer or a piece of paper and just do it, that would kind of,
everybody,
yeah.
everybody has a different set of muscle memory, a
Mhm.
different set of talents, a different database of language in their minds,
Mhm.
has different books that they have read, has been exposed to different things in their life that
Mhm.
will contribute to what you write. And you
Mhm.
don't even know it. It
Yeah.
just shows up when you begin to, and I keep saying this, I know it's boring, is tell a story. The difference between technical writing, which I did for a living for 40 years, or
Mhm.
20 years, for a long time,
Mhm.
and novel writing is there, it's a completely different skill set,
Right.
totally different skill set. I
Yeah.
could I could do a technical novel with my eyes, or a technical writing with my eyes closed, and exactly how to do it. Done it so long.
Mhm.
When I began this journey in novel writing, I had to learn a completely different set of writing skills. There's
Mhm.
things called characterization and plot timing and all kinds of dynamics that go into that kind of writing that
Mhm.
you have to learn and you have to practice and you have to do badly several times and have somebody help you do it better, just like any kind of learning.
Yeah.
But going back to the beginning,
Mhm.
learning is what I have done since I could remember. It's
Mhm.
what I've always loved to do. And in technical writing, you get paid to learn, for heaven's sakes. I mean, what's a better job than that? Getting
Right.
paid to learn this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's different for everybody,
Mhm.
but everybody has the capacity to do it if they find the right tools for their
Mhm.
personal set of skills.
Yeah, while you were talking, I had an image come to my mind. I mean, I thought technical writing is like an outline where you fill in the colors, and novel writing is where it's a blank canvas and you just do your masterpiece, right? So,
You have
um,
an outline in novel writing because you know what you want to say,
yeah,
but how you say it is the
is yeah,
masterpiece. Yes,
exactly.
absolutely.
Nice. So, Nancy, amazing life journey and with a lot of challenges, ups and downs, but you didn't relent and you are where you are at today. So, any final message to my viewers or any other topic that you'd like to discuss, bring up?
Actually, you had asked me that before, so I wrote it down. I wouldn't say
Okay.
it wrong.
Okay.
If it stirs you,
Mm-hmm.
if you feel it,
Mm-hmm.
find a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, you'll know that you're there to your true self when
Mm-hmm.
work disappears and you're just living in harmony. When it happens, you can't imagine how peaceful that feels.
Mm-hmm.
After a life of struggle, as we all have,
Mm-hmm.
you ever get to that one point where you know you're in the right place doing the right thing, there's no question.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nancy. Appreciate that.
I really appreciate your reaching out to me. This has been a lot of fun. Thank
Yeah,
you, Fish.
I really appreciate the time you took to come to my channel and share your life history uh, pretty openly. I really want to wish you luck in future endeavors and with your books and everything. And I really enjoyed the conversation. So thanks for doing this, and please stay in touch.
All right. Bye bye.